Sarah stared at the numbers on the screen, her heart sinking with each calculation. Another month, another financial tightrope walk. What she discovered in that moment of anxiety wouldn't just change her relationship with money, it would transform her understanding of God's economy and might just revolutionize your financial spiritual life too. Most people approach bill paying with a mixture of dread and resignation. They sit down at their tables, surrounded by envelopes and statements, feeling the weight of financial responsibility pressing down. Sarah was no different. Each month, this ritual left her feeling drained, worried, and sometimes even angry at her circumstances. But what if these moments of financial reckoning could become powerful encounters with God? What if the very act of paying bills could be transformed from a burden into a blessing? The revelation began on an ordinary Thursday evening. Sarah had spread her bills across the kitchen table: mortgage, utilities, student loans, credit cards. The familiar knot formed in her stomach as she calculated inflow against outflow. There never seemed to be quite enough. As she wrote check after check, a sense of scarcity tightened around her like a vice. She found herself wondering how others managed so easily while she struggled. Was God somehow less generous with her? The question hung in the air, unanswered and uncomfortable. But just as she was about to surrender to financial anxiety, her eyes fell on a small plaque her grandmother had given her years ago. "My God shall supply all your needs according to his riches in glory." Philippians 4:19 had always been one of those verses Sarah quoted without really believing. After all, bills remained whether she trusted God or not. The mortgage company wasn't interested in her faith. They wanted their payment. Yet something about seeing those words in that moment of financial stress struck her differently. If God owned everything, truly everything, then wasn't she just a manager of resources that ultimately belonged to him? And if that was true, what would change about how she viewed this monthly ritual? The thought was both liberating and terrifying. What would it mean to pay bills not as a depressing obligation, but as an act of stewardship? Sarah put down her pen and did something she'd never done before during bill paying. She prayed, not a desperate, "Please help me pay these bills" prayer, but a thoughtful conversation about what each bill represented. The mortgage, shelter provided; utilities, warmth, light, water to drink and bathe in; internet, connection to others; groceries, nourishment for her body. One by one, she began to see each expense not as money leaving her account, but as evidence of provision that had already been given. But could this perspective shift really change anything about her financial reality? Sarah was about to find out. Matthew 6, chapter 21 says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Sarah had always thought this verse was about being careful what you love. But what if it was also about paying attention to what your spending reveals about your values? As Sarah continued this new practice of gratitude with each bill, she noticed something shifting, not in her bank account, but in her heart. The cable bill prompted questions about how she spent her evenings. The credit card statement revealed patterns of emotional spending. Her giving, typically whatever was left over, was buried at the bottom of her priority list. Her money was telling a story about her life, but was it the story she wanted to tell? Then came the month that changed everything. An unexpected medical bill arrived, large enough to destroy her carefully balanced budget. In the past, this would have sent Sarah spiraling into anxiety and resentment. Instead, she placed the bill on the table and breathed deeply. This was the test of her new perspective. Could she view even this unwelcome expense through the lens of God's provision? As she sat in silence, a profound truth settled over her. God's provision isn't just about having enough money to pay the bills. Sometimes it's about having enough peace to face the bills you can't pay. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6 advises, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Sarah had been trying to understand God's provision through her limited financial perspective. But what if provision sometimes looked like wisdom to make difficult choices, or community that steps in during crisis, or even the resilience to weather financial storms without losing hope? The question transformed her approach not just to this bill, but to her entire financial life. Sarah began to see her financial situation as a relationship rather than a mathematical equation. She started having regular money dates with God, honest conversations about her resources, her fears, her hopes, and yes, her bills. She created new rituals around bill paying, lighting a candle, playing worship music, beginning with gratitude. The bills themselves hadn't changed, but her relationship with them had been completely transformed. And remarkably, as her anxiety decreased, her clarity increased. She began making different decisions, not out of fear, but out of a growing understanding of stewardship. What Sarah discovered through this journey was revolutionary in its simplicity. Every bill is an invitation to remember God's faithfulness. Every expense is an opportunity to realign with divine values. Every financial challenge is a doorway to deeper trust. She still has months when the numbers don't add up neatly. She still feels the weight of financial responsibility. But now, bill paying has become a spiritual practice, a monthly reminder that we live in God's economy, where value isn't determined by dollar signs and worth isn't measured by bank balances. So the next time you sit down to pay your bills, consider what might happen if you approach this mundane task as sacred ground. What if each bill became a prompt for prayer? What if your budget became a spiritual document reflecting your deepest values? What if financial struggles became opportunities for supernatural provision? Because perhaps, like Sarah discovered, paying bills isn't just about maintaining your financial accounts. It's about aligning your life with an economy where grace is the currency and love determines true wealth. Stay connected to faith in every storm. Subscribe, like, share, and comment now. Turn on notifications for weekly encouragement. God bless you.